There comes a time in every writer's life when they shelve a manuscript for a bit while they go back to join the living and maybe find that muse for their next book. This is Shelf Time Muses.
So when you come to Coffee Oyster Champagne, if somebody has told you to ask for the champagne tour, you ask for the champagne tour. But we don't come out here and tell people what's going on behind these doors. So come on in. Okay, so this is Canada's largest selection of special champagnes. And the key to having this kind of a selection is unique bottles. So if you look through here, if you pan around, there's one bottle that's a one-of-a-kind bottle. This building's over 100 years old. We're excavating out the property that was here before, and in the rubble, we actually found this bottle, Artois Isabelle. We did a little bit of research and found out that there was a bar here. It was actually a hotel, but it was the lobby bar, was called Artois. And the name Artois Isabelle was the proprietor of that hotel, long gone. And Artois, it means to you, it's yours. And it was a gift to her from her husband at the time, who actually died under mysterious circumstances.
Welcome to Shelf Time Muses. So today I'm here with serial entrepreneur Sanjay Singhal. Sanjay is the founder of Audiobooks.com. He was also a venture capitalist, and he also made a foray into the restaurant business where he founded Mart, which is an upscale restaurant, as well as Coffee Oyster Champagne, which is a restaurant and a cocktail bar. He is also a philanthropist, where he started the Nikayan Foundation to help fund mental health research into psychedelic therapies. So Sanjay, welcome, and thank you so much.
Wow, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're actually filming at Coffee Oyster Champagne, so thank you so much.
Welcome to my world. Yes.
Yeah. So Sanjay, I know the life of an entrepreneur has their ups and downs, and I know you did declare bankruptcy at one point. So can you tell us about that? How it got to bankruptcy, and what was your venture at that time?
Sure. So that was back in 1997. I had actually, so I'm a technology guy and have an MBA. And I've always thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I started a business coming out of business school called Video Drive. It was delivering VHS videos to people. So it's like basically Netflix before DVDs and the internet. That crashed and burned after 6 months. Nobody's hurt. And then a few years later, I got it into my head that you should be able to take a mobile device and do email on it. This is before BlackBerry, this is before any of that stuff. And I developed the software to do it, or I hired the people to develop the software. I had the business idea and created the world's first mobile email platform. It was called the Minstrel. Unfortunately, I had undiagnosed bipolar disorder at the time. Let's call it just extreme emotionality and lack of focus. And so even though we had a product that worked, we had partners, AT&T Wireless, we had customers, I still ran the company into the ground. And that was manic at the time.
So can you elaborate? How did you run the company into the ground? Was it because you were so impulsive, or because of your bipolar?
Essentially, I was defocused. So even though I probably had enough money to get us to the point where the company would take over, with revenue, I was spending it on stupid things. So that was the defocused, impulsive part. Like I spent $10,000 on this massive party with jugglers and flamethrowers at the Four Seasons Hotel in Seattle, Washington, to impress business partners. Completely unnecessary. I was staying in 5-star hotels, spending $1,000 a night. Completely unnecessary. And then when it became obvious that the money was gone, and this was all self-funded up until that point, I started staying in a Motel 6.
Right.
I started not being able to pay for plane flights and starting to borrow money from people. My dad put in an emergency injection of $100,000, not realizing quite where I was frittering it away. And this was all with a view to, I thought I was going to get venture funding. And I had venture capitalists saying, yeah, we got you. And I wasn't paying attention to the warning signs. I had one guy say, yeah, we're going to put in $2 million, but you should be talking to other VCs. Have you been talking to other VCs? It's like, yeah. But no, I hadn't been. I was just lined up. And eventually they, with lots of warning, pulled out. And I was like, suddenly one day, it's like, I have no cash. And then the next, I told everybody. The next day I woke up and finally the manic part of my cycle broke and I entered depression at that point. Wasn't pretty. Wasn't pretty. And a divorce happened right at that same time as well. So, yeah.
Because you also, I know I've seen you talk before and you mentioned that you didn't sleep for 6 months. Was it that phase?
Yeah. So that phase was awesome. Like, I slept for 3 hours a night.
Okay.
And I would wake up like raring to go and calling up my product manager and saying, where's this? And, I was on the West Coast at the time in San Diego. And so stuff was happening on the East Coast by the time I got up at 3 a.m. And it was just like, go, all the time.
And so you didn't know actually that you were bipolar yet at that time, right? Or did you already know?
It seems like so obvious in retrospect that how could I not know something was off, right? But the thing is, when you're manic, I wasn't an idiot. I had people giving me positive feedback all the time. It's like, oh my God, Sanjay, there's like a light inside you, like you're glowing, like you're getting all these things done. Where do you get all the energy and where do you get the ideas? And it's like, right?
Right.
Lots of positive feedback.
But then how did you realize that you were actually bipolar? How did you get diagnosed?
Oh, that took many years past that process. So when I woke up and I was suddenly had no energy, like I'd been waking up at 3 a.m. for several months straight. And then that day I woke up at 1 p.m. sleeping in a sleeping bag in my office because divorced, I didn't have a place to live, couldn't afford a hotel. And I was like, oh my God, I actually don't feel like doing anything. And that was the first time in months that had happened. And so I entered what turned out to be like a 9-month-long depression.
Okay.
And so it became, so to me, it was just, I'm depressed. The problem isn't that I was manic and I spent all my money. It's that now I'm depressed. And that's the thing I want to get rid of.
I see.
And so the depression is what was treated for the first couple of years. And I did eventually get out of the depression. Not with medication, in fact. It was just, 9 months. I eventually came out of it. I got a job. I started golfing. I was living with my parents at the time. But they did keep sending me to see psychiatrists. And some of the psychiatrists hinted that I might be manic depressive, which is what bipolar was called back then. And I was like, manic depressive, like that means I'm crazy, right? Like manic depressive just sounds like it had this horrible stigma around it. It's like, no, I'm depressed. I'm just garden variety depressed, right? Just give me the Effexor or the Prozac or whatever, I'll be fine. But the cycles kept going, right? And the thing is, I loved being manic. So it was another 5 years, I think, before I finally got this psychiatrist, Sagar Parikh, out of University of Toronto, who said, the problem's not what you think your problem is. But the good news is there's a medication for it. And so he got me on something called lamotrigine, which is for bipolar disorder that is heavily on the skewed depression side. And I started taking that 25 years ago. And my life went from this to that after that medication.
So after you started getting treated for bipolar, so when was Audiobooks founded? Was that before, during, after?
It was founded about a year and a half before I started the treatment.
Okay. Yes.
So because I remember falling asleep during board meetings when I was in a depression cycle.
Oh wow.
I was a little bit manic, I guess, when I started the company, but I didn't start it myself. I actually wrote a check to invest in the company originally.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, can you tell me more about how that came about?
Yeah, I had, in a manic episode, gotten into a fight with my previous partner at a telecom company, quit. He bought me out. I had a few $100,000. And I would go to these networking events where I would say to people, hey, I have a little bit of money. Do you have any ideas? And so one guy told me about the idea behind Simply Audiobooks, which is, he said, we'll package together CD audiobooks and we'll mail them to people. And they'll just pay us a monthly fee. I said, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard of. And he said, have you heard of Netflix? No. So he pushed across this press release to me. Netflix had just passed 400,000 subscribers. And they had recently become a public company. And I said, oh, never heard of these guys. Looks like it'll work. Let's try it out. That was it. That was how it was born. I put, I think it was $50,000 into it at the time.
Right.
And I was totally hands off.
Oh, okay. So you were mostly the investor? Or?
Yeah, I was just the investor at the beginning. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So tell me more about so once you started getting treated for bipolar, and then you said your life changed drastically. So what was that like when you compared to how you were working before and after?
Let's see here. So I don't have those bursts of energy where I get up at 6 in the morning and it's just like, I just want to start something. I want to create something.
Yeah.
That's gone. I also don't get the depression cycles,
Okay.
right? But I was always a pretty creative guy.
Yeah.
And so it's not a lack of creativity. Now I just have focus. And I learned a ton through the bankruptcy. It's like, just because I was manic at the time didn't mean I wasn't also paying attention and able to learn lessons about cash flow management. And the bankruptcy, in many ways, one of the best things that ever happened to me. Certainly career-wise, it was the best thing that happened to me.
Why?
Because I learned that I can lose everything and I'll be fine.
Okay.
And then the building back up, like after the bankruptcy, I remember I was living in a dorm at the University of Toronto, and I had to decide whether I could pay $1 a month to get the touch tone service on a Harmony phone from Bell. It's like, I don't think I can afford the $1. I think I need to be more careful with my cash. I learned some great lessons, but that path of getting back up on my feet felt great, right? It's like the crash was behind me now. Okay. Now it's just that the emotional effect of like every day got better. Every day was a little bit better. It felt great. So if everything goes to hell now, I'll be worried about my family, but I'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. So you did mention that, you had trouble with your family during the manic phase. And then how did you kind of repair that relationship? Or did you?
I didn't.
Okay.
I mean, that was the end of that relationship.
Okay, yeah.
And in fact, so here's the thing. You mentioned earlier that I fund mental health research with psychedelic therapies. I have read a lot about trauma and a lot about where these disorders come from. And I don't think depression or bipolar or anxiety I don't think any of these things are actual disorders.
Okay.
They're your brain's natural reaction to an abnormal situation, right? Or maybe it's a normal situation, but it's your brain's reaction to a situation. And I think my mania at that time was a reaction to, unfortunately, 6 years of being in a marriage that wasn't working for either one of us, but I didn't have the courage to pull the trigger on it or the whipcord and get out. And the mania gave me the energy to get out. The bankruptcy was the side effect, right? But the divorce was the lasting positive thing that happened for both of us, frankly.
I could imagine, though, being in that manic state gives you this sense of, almost like a godlike, I don't know,
I mean, I could do anything. I could call anybody. It was. It
could be
addicting.
Amazing. I could imagine, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So going back to your bankruptcy, I know you also told the story where you didn't even have enough money to buy a bus ticket or a plane ticket. Yeah, and then you had to, this guy lent you $200.
Convince some stranger in the airport to loan me $500. I said, I'll give you $1,000. I'll give you $2,000 back later if you buy this ticket for me on your credit card. And he bought it, and I had every intention of paying him back, but I gave him a check. He called my bank while I was standing there to verify the funds were in the account. Funds were in the account. Of course, he deposited it, and I was writing checks left, right, and center, and it bounced. I felt so bad, but I actually did get the $2,000 and wire it to him. So he was whole. There was lots of people, though, who trusted me that didn't get their money.
I see. Yeah, because you were writing a lot of bad checks at the time, right? Were you conscious of it? Because I know like some people kind of black out when they're in a certain state, right?
No, I never knowingly wrote a bad check.
Okay.
I always thought the money was there or the money was going to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wasn't trying to take advantage of anybody,
Right.
but I just wasn't tracking it properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so explain more about the bankruptcy proceedings. How did you actually get out of it? Because I know a lot
I
of
gotta
people.
say something.
Yeah.
You know, like bankruptcy is horrible,
Yeah.
and the processes are not set up to be friendly to, actually, frankly, to the creditors or to the person who declares bankruptcy. It was. So what happened was, the advice I would give anybody is, if you think you need to declare bankruptcy, do this first. Go to all the people you owe money and say, look, I'm thinking about declaring bankruptcy. How about I give you 10 cents for every dollar I owe you? 10 cents on the dollar. They will agree, especially if it's banks and credit card companies and people like that. They go through this stuff all the time. They would rather get the 10 cents. Mm-hmm. In this case, I couldn't because my ex-wife had a child support claim against me. And even though it wouldn't be subject to the bankruptcy, it would survive the bankruptcy, she still didn't sign off with all the creditors to let the settlement go through. All my other creditors, I owed about $500,000 to various people. All of the other creditors were fine with it. And then as a result, so I filed for bankruptcy. All my debts are wiped out. I'm able to say, so this is the good part. I'm getting calls from collection agents all day, every day. I could just say, all I had to say was, this is the name of my bankruptcy trustee. I file, call him. And the calls just stopped. It was like, that was such a blessed relief. And then the bankruptcy trustee just runs your life. It's like, and then it was like, if I get a job, I have to give him half my salary until he decides that he doesn't want half my salary anymore. And 9 months after maybe 6 months after the bankruptcy, I got a fantastic job that paid me, I think, $250,000 a year at the time. And I was like, I have to give half of this to the bankruptcy? And it doesn't go to the creditors. It doesn't go to Amex or Toronto Dominion Bank. It just goes into this guy's pocket, right? And I had to pay him to be my bankruptcy trustee. It was just this giant scam. I had to give him a bunch of my assets. I remember thinking, like, do I need to declare my golf clubs? And like, so after about 6 months of writing these checks to him for half my paycheck, I just stopped. I said, I don't think he's paying attention. He's in New Brunswick. I'm in Ontario now with my job, right? I'm just going to stop. Never heard from him again.
Oh, really? So it just stopped right there?
Just stopped. Well, I mean, I was still in bankruptcy for 2 years.
Okay.
And so you get discharged after a year, and then you can start building up your credit again. But my bankruptcy discharge happened in 1998. And then I was able to function I couldn't get a credit card for years, but I was able to function as a regular human being out of it.